Well, hello and welcome. I am the Restless Kaiser.
I'm Dwayne from Plastic Crack Gaming.
I'm Nick from Grey Primer.
I'm Mira from my YouTube channel.
And I'm Woolly Mike, but together we are Modelling Say it slow and then we're getting everybody in.
Didn't they do well? Give him a round of applause. All right, Saffron69 is here. I think that's Gary. He went up on Friday. I wasn't there till Saturday. Rich John is here. Alan Roberts is here. And Mira Manga is here. Who knew? Metal and Minis and Subcommandante 77. Mirror in the gang. Indeed, it's always a pleasure. So, anybody going to try and do any hobbying tonight? I'm going to claim I'm going to try and put a little bit of paint on these World War II 54mm Africa Corps. I probably won't get any done, but that is at least the intention. Rosie is here as well. Howdy, Rosie. Anybody else doing any hobbying? Dwayne?
I'm trying to paint an Orbamech, but I'm using a green screen, so half of it.
It's a predator.
Yeah, there you go.
It's literally like green, white, and orange, so it's like, all right.
I've got some baby kitties from. We were talking about Bad Squidoo, and I got some cats from the show, and bunnies, and a well. But I will just be looking at them. No, I'm waiting for. I met somebody professional on the weekend that might be teaching me to do some painting.
Lord, I'd love to watch that. Nick?
I am in the middle of a tiny scale diorama, and trying to do that on camera is just impossible. These Marines are what, like 5 millimeters tall. It's just not worth trying. But I can read, but I think that would be rude.
I think so too as well. Wally, any hobbying tonight?
Yeah, I picked up the Skytrex MDFs for Acton Panzer. So I've put those together and I've done the card tower and the individual token holders. Some of them have got like laser cut words on them, so I'm going to put some wash into it to give them a bit of depth.
Oh, to give it to definition. Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Who else has joined us? Siffy72. Scania has invented Predator camo paint. Oh, because of your green screen.
Yeah.
Very nice. And Duncan's Brand Brothers, evening all. How are the legs? Yeah, I think we're all in various stages of recovery after the weekend, Duncan. We will be showing some pretty pictures of your board a little bit later. So we're going to go around then so people can introduce. I mean, I think pretty much everyone here people will know because it's very much a pool community. But we'll start with Dwayne. And Dwayne, introduce yourself to the beautiful people at home if they don't know you.
What's the crack? I'm Dwayne from Plastic Crack Gaming. I used to do a lot of 40k orc stuff and rarely do it now. And I mostly focus on Battletech, and we're starting to swing it into a bit of Leviathans. I was at the UK Games Expo as a demo agent for Catalyst. So you would have saw me teaching people how to play Leviathans, the Great War, or every now and then I'll teach people Battletech or Alpha Strike, or I'll pretty much play anything, you know what I mean? But yeah, wargaming for as long as I can remember, and a
long-time friend of the show. I mean, you were here.
And a long time, exactly. Yeah, Jesus, great crack. Met up for the curry, but didn't quite happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we had a beer. Yeah. Mira, you.
Hi. So I haven't painted any minis for a really long time because I'm terrible at it. I'm mostly wargaming adjacent. I say I'm a big Dungeons and Dragons player. I like role-playing games. But hoping to learn to paint soon. And I guess my attachment to the hobby is mostly Warhammer books, but any sci-fi fantasy makes my day, really. And have this lovely YouTube channel. As you said, Michael, we are a lovely community of gaming folk. So yeah, that's pretty much what I get up to. You can see people send me gifts of minis to paint and things, and they mostly remain unpainted. But that could change this year. We'll see.
Very nice. And first time on the show, we have a Nick from Grey Primer.
Primer, it started as an unboxing and building channel, and everything would be left in grey plastic, hence the name Grey Primer. And then I started to get interested in what would this look like with color on it. And now I'm pretty much exclusively doing dioramas based on classic movies and Warhammer novels. So if I find a scene in a novel where I'm just like, that's too cool, I will find a kit that matches that and I will build it. So that's what I've been doing. And these things take 3 to 4 months. But I started way back when I was a wee kiddie playing Blood Bowl. So I'm kind of surrounded by Blood Bowl paraphernalia and way too many teams. That's me.
Very nice, very nice. It does seem that that Warhammer is the thing that unifies. It's where it began for so many of us, even if we went on divergent paths. So today, you know, we all had we all met, not necessarily all met each other, but at the UK Games Expo. And Dwayne had already talked last time he was on the show. I said, well, let's get together after the show and talk about what it was like, which I thought was a good idea. So Mira didn't know I was going to ask her until the Saturday morning when it turned up at the call. Hey, Mira, come on Tuesday. You know, you can do it for a friend. We've met at least.
Never say no to the Restless Kaiser is my advice, hobbyists. Just say yes.
Great. I don't know. I met Nick on Sunday, but it was like, yeah, more people the merrier. Because I think one of the things that's my experience is you can go to a show or you can work a show, but it's quite hard to try and do both of those things.
Yeah.
It's quite, even though we do get away from the store. I'm usually just kind of exhausted and zombie like moving around. You know,
I just want to tell you something about our meeting because it was serendipitous. I was done. It was Sunday late. I had shin splints. My feet were on fire. I was thinking I better go queue for my flight because I'd seen the departures lounge at Birmingham Airport, which was out into the street. And I thought, just wait for one more minute. And then you walk through the door. I swear. Yep. It was meant to be.
As angels, I appeared. There you go.
Yeah. And then I said, hey, and you ran away. And I was like, hey.
I might well have looked like, oh God, not another one by that point, to be honest. Right, okay. Anyway, so we were all at the UK Games Expo, but we all did very different things. So what I thought we'd do tonight is each person to talk a little bit about their experiences at the expo. So for those of you that didn't get the opportunity to go, you'd get a feel for it. And for those of you that are thinking about, taking a stall or taking a demo game or something to a convention, you can hear from some grizzled veterans about probably why you shouldn't do that. It's great when it's done. It's great before you go, but when you're there, it's blooming hard work. All right. So, Dwayne, you're undeniably the best looking of all of us. So you can go first, mate.
That's the crack. I have a few images to share on the slideshow, but yeah, I came along with a Catalyst. There was a booth to set up, so we were there from setup on Thursday until breakdown on Sunday, and then I came home on the Monday because we thought the extra day would work wonders. But here's some of the work that the lads have done. So they did a diorama where it's the held horses, and they're trying to extract off the planet. So this is a big 3D print that the lads have airbrushed up. It's going to be a mix of things here in various orders. It was very quickly put together. I was rather enamored with the fact that you could have streets named after companies, so that was a quick snap of that. They had a lot of miniatures painted up, so there's new stuff coming out. These are the Kickstarter mechs that are due to be fulfilled any week now. So they've a lot of them painted up by the guys. They had some of the lads from Camo Specs Online, which do like the official paint jobs. Augustine was there painting away. They did some big mock-ups as well. These were done by Arthur, a good friend of mine, another Catalyst demo agent.
So how big are those? They look a lot bigger than the normal.
I think these are one in, I think he said they're like 1 in 40th scale or something like that. They're way bigger. They're substantially bigger. Like they're bigger. I'd say that the one on the left is about the size of a Warhound Titan, sort of. I'm trying to remember, maybe even a bit taller than a Warhound.
I think about 10 or 11 inches, maybe.
Yeah, they're tall enough, like. And he mocked them up. He learned how to use microcontrollers and batteries and programming them and doing lights up on them and stuff. So there was all lights, and he was due to do sound effects and stuff like that, but ran out of time. But like did an amazing job, and then printed them up and painted them up, and
that's one of the things that you're only going to see at a show, right?
Yeah,
And
oh,
that's
yeah.
that does it. That's one of the highlights for me is there's things to look at. You don't necessarily need to interact and like, oh, that's amazing. That
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like the lads did a big diorama and a bit of a spread, so you have a bit of information about what you're looking at. This is one of the. This was a new mech that was painted up as well because it's on the cover of a new source book coming out. He's a mercenary because it's all about mercenaries. So this can be sort of how would it be like the star players that you can hire for Blood Bowl for your team. So if you have a mercenary company, you can hire this guy out and he'll help you for a mission or whatever. And that's the idea behind them. But he's a specific character, and they've done a load of stuff. So they were teaching people how to play on arenas. This is another stadium that's designed up and 3D printed. There's some of the terrain that you can buy there pre-painted. There was some Leviathan stuff as well. So these are actually prototypes of the Italian ships that are going to be coming out when it does release. But we got some mock-ups. We got the foils to do mock-ups of them in resin, and someone did an absolute cracking paint job. I don't know who painted them, I'm afraid, so I can't give them credit, but whoever you are, you did an amazing job. Fair play to you. But there was quite a lot of other stuff knocking around, so I spent most of my time playing labs, teaching people how to play labs. This is another diorama here done by Arthur, all microcontrollers in the fuel refineries and such, and the whole idea of this is to be a combined board. So it's diorama to the left, but that lower right area is actually the intro board. So this is, imagine this as the table that introduces you to the war game. You know what I mean? How's that for your first experience? You can't not but love it. So this is all styrofoam, high density styrofoam that Arthur has sat down and hot wired, and the man's an absolute machine. You know what I mean?
He's hand milled all of those hexes with a hot wire.
All of those hexes, and so he's a whiz. He can put his hand to anything. So hot wire cutters, laser cutters, 3D printers. There's no stopping the chap if he puts his mind to it. He's one of those lads. You know what I mean? And an absolute gent as well. So some absolutely amazing stuff. Again, this is some of the mock-ups they did, the larger ones. The Hotspots Hinterlands, that's the cover of the new source book coming out. And then the lads from the Leeds Wargaming Clubs did some tables as well. So there was some for Alpha Strike, such as this one where they've cut out tiles and glued them down and done all the terrain and the basin themselves. And then there's a larger board, which was the width of the stand going all the way up into the dropship. And you have various mechs fighting amongst the buildings between 3D prints. So there's like traditional old school methods, you know what I mean? Making hills, styrofoam, making rivers and stuff like that. And then you have like 3D printed terrain, and then there's hand painted stuff, airbrushing, there's a lot of stuff being put into it, and an awful lot of effort put in by the lads up at the Leeds Wargaming Clubs and a few of the demo agents to pull it all together. And it looks absolutely amazing. So that was most of my experience was in and around the demo tables. I got to check out the convention now and then, say hello to people as they came by, but most of it was spent in and around the demo tables, teaching people how to play Leviathans. We have a few bits and pieces there. There was Shadowrun being played as well, so there was tables there. There was a whole section for board games. So there was a good spread of stuff and so many examples of the mechs. So people could see what quite a lot of them looked like, and there was a good few knocking around. And then that was a picture of Hall 3, and I was well impressed by the far end of it. And that's me. That was my UK. Yeah, this is up in Hall 3 on the first night. I think it was just like the open gaming area. And it was good crack. Well, I got to see a few bits and pieces. I got to say hello to some of the cosplayers. I'm not used to going to conventions and seeing cosplayers. That's not really it's not really a thing I experienced much over in Ireland. I mean, you might have one or two, but not to the extent that you had over there. There was a really fun one. I don't know if I have a picture of him here, where it's like a Space Marine Darth Vader. I thought that was funny. This is Augustine painting up the big mechs. You can see the scale of them there in comparison to them, like some of the big ones. Oh, there we go. Look, happily with a Marine Vader, and wow. I think there was
just for those you don't know, Dwayne's probably 6'3".
Yeah,
he's a big fella.
Yeah, he was definitely on what are they, like plaster stilts? You know, the ones that they use for plastering roofs or painting roofs. He's definitely on a pair of them. But yeah, I'm a big enough fellow, like, so. These boys were huge.
When he walked past the stall, you could hear him with a douche, douche.
I tried to take a few snaps running around quickly of some other games and stuff, so I was, throw me eye and see what's going wargaming was. I think this was the Dystopian Wars table, and then there you go. There's Horace as well. So like
Horace himself.
You couldn't miss these guys. They were absolutely huge. Like we said, I'm about 6'3" or thereabouts, and you couldn't miss these guys. So yeah, it was fun. Like I said, most of the time I was down at the demo table, so I didn't get to get out and about much. But when I did, I tried to make the most of it. You know yourself. There's a lot of stuff there on sale. There's a lot of bits that I wouldn't necessarily be into. Like there's a lot of trading cards and stuff like that. But there's a lot of board games. There's loads of bits and pieces for people. I think I saw someone selling like homemade fudge and people selling 3D printed stuff for arts and crafts and lots of art. So there's a good mix there. You know what I mean? So you've wargaming, but you're not just getting the sort of usual wargaming club experience where it's a bunch of blokes down in the function room or whatever else. Like when I was doing the demo tables, we were I had all genders, races, and creeds, and kids from 9 to people like much older than myself. Yeah, so it
family, isn't it? Much more of a family thing there.
Yeah, definitely.
Prams with tiny ones.
Exactly. Yeah. Helping them get up the stairs and stuff. Like Saturday was the family day, I think. Like, but Friday not so much. So different days will give you different experiences as well. So if you have a family yourself and you're looking to go, definitely Saturday's the sort of the family day to go. So yeah, there's people of all sorts. It was good, and I like that about it. I like that you get to interact with people that you wouldn't normally have the opportunity to in your own little world, if you get me. I like that aspect of it, and then teaching the younger generation games and seeing the excitement that they have for it. That's why I sort of like do demo games. It reminds me of my childhood and how important it was, like remembering who taught me how to play 40k or who taught me how to paint for the first time. And I love being part of someone's journey. That's sort of what does it for me. And that's what keeps me going.
You bang on, and I know I talk about it a lot, but and he's in the channel, but that was very much Duncan's Band of Brothers. It was his vision of what he was trying to achieve with those ball action boards. Was about those, like you'd go to museums and you'd see lovely static dioramas, and he's like, I want something of that quality that the kids can play on. That's what I want to achieve. And it was definitely those kind of things, whether it was the model in a shop window or something, but it was those high quality visuals that drew you. Because when you got home with your first model and your first pots of paint, you did not reproduce what you would, but it didn't stop me, No. I think that's because the inspiration was still there behind it, wasn't it? So what was it like as an experience over the weekend then, Dwayne? I mean, you did the full 3 days, right?
Oh yeah, so we came over on the Thursday for setup, and then we left on the Monday. It was busy. So this would be like the second major event I've done in demoing for Catalyst. I think Essen last year was the first one, and that was like, so I had a baptism before. This said, I think like Saturday was a busy day, but overall, it was a bit calmer than I was I think I was thrown in the deep end in regards to events, because Essen's like I think 4 times as big or something like that. It's massive, like absolutely. But I enjoyed it. Talked an awful lot, as you can tell. My voice is still a bit raspy. Did a shed ton of demo games, like 5 hours were disappearing like that, man. It was good crack. I enjoyed myself. I look forward to next year already. I'm already talking about what needs to be organized for next year. So I'll definitely be back. And if people haven't tried it, definitely give it a bash. And if you have kids yourself and you're looking for a family day out, I think the Saturday 1 day pass sort of like would be a good idea. Definitely.
Yeah, I would. If you're going on the Saturday though, dress in your thinnest t-shirt and a pair of shorts, because it is a hot, busy space for sure. It's very, very busy on the Saturday, but it was really good. Right, Dwayne, thank you. So moving into very different experience of the con then. Mira, are you happy to go next?
Yeah, I'm happy.
Let me just take the pictures down.
Dwayne, thanks so much for those pictures. They were fantastic.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so I just did the Friday and the Sunday, and I was very lucky. I went down with one of my best friends for decades, Arbiter Ian, who actually got me into the hobby. So there is anything I see that I can't identify, generally Ian knows what it is. So my main reason for kind of being there is I volunteer with one of the trustees of a charity, which is where Michael came to find me, Games Therapy UK. And I am somebody that can get quite easily overwhelmed. As Dwayne and Michael said, it gets really busy on the Saturday. I just remember Ian going, oh my God, we are at the point, this is the human spawn point, because it was just like humans. So I volunteer a couple of hours on the Friday and the Saturday at the stand, because I know I'll be perky, I'll be at my best, and actually gives you a bit of an anchor. You can just be like, oh, just breathe and talk about the charity. And we had a really big resin dice that Steve from our charity managed to get signed by loads of people. And over the weekend and the raffle preceding it, we made £1,800 for the charity, which is brilliant. And that's going to help us so much. So that makes me feel so good. But yeah, there were so many wonderful things. Now, one of the things I'm going to talk about is as you walk into the event, you'll see a small encampment of oldie worldy sheets and blankets, and this was the Vikings. The Vikings showed up. I think it was a double booking. We had Games Expo and then some Vikings. And one of the things I saw on the program was Viking Battle 3:30. I said, Ian, we're going to the Viking Battle at 3:30. So that was one of my highlights, because we were absolutely knackered on the Saturday, literally like, oh, and we went and sat in the grass and watched, you know, all ages, you know, little Vikings, big Vikings, just beating the crap out of each other. There was one guy with spears who just came and just kept throwing sticks at his friends. There was someone with a sling with ping pong balls, and we all had to go, hooray! And they, of course, they all died, and then they get back up. And Ian was saying, oh, when they all die, someone should come on dressed as a necromancer and just be like, rise, rise. That didn't happen. But there was a guy, a really older looking guy with completely white, you know, very Santa-like. And he got killed, and everyone went, no, not Santa. And then we were shouting, save Christmas. So he was really making the most out of his death scene, you know, like, oh, kicking his legs. And I just thought it was really, really fun. And as you were saying, it was so good for families, because you saw little kids going, no, and getting into it. So that was really lovely. So hopefully next year, the Vikings will be back. I really love making new friends and chatting to everybody. Dwayne, was your table on like a corner just before the steps going up?
Yeah, it was the big, massive banner that you couldn't miss. Yeah. So we were, as you came down the steps, we were that whole section along there. I wasn't on the corner, but I was in the middle of it, between like the BattleTech stuff and the role players.
Because I remember that first model you showed us, the orange.
The drop ship, yeah.
That was like one of my. I was like, if I go back to that ship, that's on that corner, and then I could triangulate my way. So thank you, Dwayne. little lighthouse.
It's so big. The other thing is, it's quite disorientating, isn't it?
It's so big.
Because just a grey hole in the exits, you can't really see the exits.
Yeah,
because of the banners and the people. You're not actually necessarily sure which way you're facing.
No, there's no compass point. So I had a lot to get around. Like one of the element that's all the paint, the fancy paint brushes. And Ian was saying, I'm going to show you some bloody expensive brushes. And I was actually looking for Louise Suggs paints, because everyone said these paints are so your colors, Mira. They're like bright, bright, bright neon. Go and get this set, your first set. And I thought, yay, I can do unicorns. Sold out. And apparently, I don't know if this is true. You lot might know if this is true. They've run out of the pigment that she uses for the turquoise, and they need to wait for the flower to grow. Is that true?
There's some, I don't know what it is. Some people have said it's a fish, it's an animal, it's a flower. I'm not sure. I think it is the flower that needs. Yeah. That pigment is exhausted.
So that was like a little trip. But you know, I would have spent money on those paints. my first ever paints were Citadel Chaos paints from Games Workshop in Reading in 1988, and they had Bilious Green and Chaos Black. And it's not like that now, is it? With your dry washes and your varnishes and your rinses and your spa weekends. Anyway,
The pro painter talks about the dry wash. They're like literally the opposite of one another.
Stippling. I think that might be a thing. Anyway, so then we went. So that's when we bumped into, I think it's George and somebody else from Siege Studios, and they'd had my friend Ian on, and Ian said that I might be able to go to like this like camp, like a day thing where they teach people, and I was like, that won't be humiliating at all. So that was a big thing, networking. You can do so much networking at this event because there's so many people who just want to do creative fun stuff. Ian and I popped to see Merchoid, which is quite commercial. It does a lot of like stuff for Warhammer, and Ian and I have reviewed their candles and dressing gowns. So we went with some merch suggestions. We would like beach towels and slippers and more cuddly nurglings and stuff like this. They were like, yeah, we'll pass it on. Oh yeah, this is the excellent thing that happened. So Ian and I were like, we guessed all the smells of these candles. What were they? We got sent the official list of all the scents of all the Warhammer candles. So I know what Sheent's smells like officially. Yeah, so that was great. And then the reason I cried on my stream on Sunday, as Michael witnessed, was I went to see Ian Livingston, who is like basically the reason this hobby exists in the UK. And he remembers me from the interview, but I adore him. He is really kind. He set up an academy. He's got a lot to give to this hobby. And to be perfectly honest, yay, Diceman. My copy's up there too, just behind the Warhammer mag. And he was so kind to me. I always joke with him. He's been in this game for like 20 years with his 5 friends. Hi, Bears Army. And I said, I'm still trying to get into your game. And he said, nope, not a chance. But come round here. And he showed me he previewed some artwork of his new book, which is coming out in September. He even showed me some of the writing. Like I got like 3-second peek. And he's just so kind and lovely and really nice paternal dad, tutor energy. And I was very made up. So mad respect to Ian Livingston for letting me harass him all the time. And then I also bumped into this guy I harass, Lee Marshall from the Forge of Mars. Basically, there was a point in Lee's life where he had more Titans than Games Workshop. And he has those amazing big ones and was telling me about the Titan walks. I'm going to try and get an invite to a Northampton Titan walk. One of my ambitions was to buy a £1,500 Titan. And it was because it was bigger. That would be the first thing I'd paint, because surely that would be easier than a tiny thing. Anyway, I don't think that's going to happen. So I did get my little kitten minis and my bunny minis and a well from Annie at Bad Squidoo. And I'm going to paint the well, because everyone who comes on my channel, we joke that we go on adventures, but really we're well inspectors. So we have to go down the tunnels to inspect all these wells and conduits. So I'm going to have a little well with the bunnies and the cats sitting around the well. I am trying. I'm becoming painting adjacent closer and closer. And then loads of my friends are creative. So I went to see Becky from Black Armada Games, and she's got an amazing new game called Lovecraft-esque 2. And there's little clues and you use your UV light, and it's a really fun DM-less game. My friend Callum, who basically I used to run the podcast zone at Dragonmeet and invite lots of podcasters to come to this games convention in London in December. And he kind of got me that job. He handed it on to me. And he has developed a game called Rosewood Abbey, which is based on Brindlewood Bay. And it was really heavily influenced by that not the film, the book by, I can't remember, but Sean Connery was in the film with Christian Slater and they were monks. Name of the Rose. So he had his game there, and that was really inspiring because I've known him, and just watching people make a game out of nothing is like so cool. And he had a cutout Sean Connery, which I think contributed to his sales because people were like, "What's Sean Connery as a monk doing here?" Oh, and then talking of cosplayers, I wish I never knew there was a Darth Vader Marine, because I missed him and Horus, who I really want to give a good talking to. He messed up everything. He should have just calmed down, had a chat with his dad, listened to his big brothers, but no, cut his head off anyway. I did see some other cosplayers. Again, they were really lovely. They let us hold their massive guns. And we saw some orcs on our way out. And I said, Ian, look, it's orcs. And I was a bit scared to go and ask them for a picture because, if they're orcs, they're like, no, we're orcs. So I kind of went over and I went, oh, could I have my picture taken with you? And they were like, well, we're not in our cosplay properly. And then I was like, okay, sorry. And then two of them were like, oh, we'll put it on. And then they gave me their massive orc guns. And Ian said, okay, on 3, everyone go, wah. And he went 1, 2, 3, we went, wah. And it was like this amazing orc release at the end of like craziness. And the picture, I'm just like a big smile and these orc characters. So yeah, it was just so fun. And I definitely recommend it. I would say take some friends, have a support system, plan in breaks, know that it is going to be like a Glastonbury or a really busy occasion. Bring snacks, bring water. The floors are concrete. So yes, whoever asked about our legs, they are really hardcore floors. But I think if you go with an open mind and you're smiley, you could stand to make a lot of friends. And also, I did this thing where I bought 50 quid in cash. And I said to Ian, I'm going to try only to spend this money because if you don't have a budget, there's stuff to buy everywhere. And Ian and I love shopping. So we're always looking at the candles and the crafts, and you can get ears and tails and everything you ever want. And there's this really fun game called Moonstone. Like there's all the things. So the end. Is that all right, Kaiser?
Did you stick to your budget?
I did. I only spent £38 with Annie, and I think that'll bring me lifelong happiness.
Lifelong happiness for 38 quid. You can't go wrong. If anyone doesn't know, Annie Bad Squiddo Games, she makes a range of miniatures, but what she's particularly noted for in the wargaming hobby is she finds historical heroines and makes miniatures of them. And as much as possible, she, it's very much a women, encouraging women in the hobby kind of company, so she can get women painters and women, figure designers and all sorts. And she's a self-made, like she'd done it all off her own bat, so fair play to her. And still probably like only 5-6 years old, I think, as a company.
Yeah, and she's a super lovely person. You bump into all these people who self-creators, and you think these must be people under humongous stress putting their own money into stuff, and they're lovely. So yeah, always say hello to creators and tell them that they rock. I think. And
on the game therapy side of it, I mean, from what Gary was saying on late on the Saturday, it was a really useful event. They picked up loads more volunteers, loads more people to engage with things, and raised a decent chunk of money.
Yeah, I mean, so many people came along and they wanted to run games, or they had a PhD, or they knew someone that could benefit from the charity. And, mad props to Gary, because he's the one who's going to receive all these emails and then have to get everything sorted. And on the Sunday night, I think it was Sunday, they were like, oh, we need a press release now. So I'm a writer. So we quickly got a press release together and everything. And it's a really great charity. And if anyone's watching, if you just follow Game Therapy UK on any of our socials and amplify our messaging, that'd be lovely. But you can also donate and you can volunteer. So yeah, check out the website.
Absolutely. It's fantastic. And Gary is a practicing clinician. He is a doctor. He does have a real job as well as running this charity, right?
Yeah, he turned up with a broken hand.
Yeah. He tried to shake his hand. And I forgot and tried to shake it a second time as I went to leave. Right. Okay. That was Mirror. Should we go for Wooly next? Then you talk about Duncan's Band of Brothers. And your show experiences, Mike. Here's your pictures.
Well, the first thing was the program. I thought people were walking around with vintage D&D modules because of the 50-year anniversary. I have played out of the original book with friends. I'm that old with D&D. Then we bumped into this guy. He's right next to us all the 2 days. He's actually a fan of the channel, and it turns out that we played American football against each other in the 90s for the 2 most rival teams you can imagine. He makes his own wargame terrain and scenics, war paint figures, and he had a really good range of desert foliage that interested the Kaiser. So I think Kaiser's going to be talking to him about some custom terrain for a future project. So it's great to meet fans and people that are doing it.
You have to say the name of those rugby teams, Wooly.
Southampton University Stags and Cardiff University Cobras.
That sounds like so much trouble.
It is. I started playing American football in 1986, and I'm still involved in the sport. I write the media for them now, amongst other things, and I do stadium commentary for games. Then, of course, got to fight in the flow. The flow of people and footfall is amazing. Even at my size, it's a salmon going upstream against a really strong torrent. My plan was to go and see Dwayne and then go to Rubicon, which is on the far corner near where you were, Mira. And I got to Dwayne and I decided I'm going to go back, and I was still going against the flow when I went the other way. So Dwayne's demoing his Leviathan game to these two gentlemen. And then I took the hot seat. I think I was determined against his French.
Yeah.
These are fantastic models. I'm looking forward to being able to get my hands on a set of this when it's available.
Well, the German ships are prototypes of the new ships coming out, and the French ones are previous iterations from a decade ago when it was initially released. But yeah, they look class.
Yeah, so I shot down one. Was it a destroyer? And this is Dwayne's cruiser, looking really sort of like worse for wear. But we ran out of turn time, so. And then 16 foot of Duncan's Band of Brothers boards. This is the Sunday. We were playing two games at the same time, but they were interactive. So Kaiser started at the far end of the table with his Germans. On the second table, the American Paras were defending the Bocage. And my Paras and then the armour arrived at the bottom, taking out the guns and then assaulting Brecourt Manor. On the right there is Jack, a young player who valiantly held out in the grey T-shirt holding the dice tray. He valiantly held out against my armour. He had a Stug and a half track, a 251. But when my Hellcat and the Wolverines arrived, it was slow progress. But he had Panzerfaust and Panzerschrecks in the manor that kept me under control. This is from the Saturday. I actually got to play Germans for a change, and doing demo games for people. And my Americans were on the other side of the board. My American Paras feature a captured French Citroen truck full of German weapons, and I tell a little story about the truck and the reason for the supplies. I think that's one of Kaiser's Panthers actually making it to the far side of the manor. And then there's my two of my Wolverines just arriving. We never actually got to the big clash. Kaiser's Tiger had the center board, but we never got to get a big tank on tank action. So, and this is my armored infantry arriving, Greyhound Scout, and some half tracks. And then this is Kaiser lifting me and Dwayne up to make him look like a strong man.
Wow.
And yeah, second year, last year when we only did the Sunday, but at one stage the Vikings did a rampage around the halls, and I thought, like you would see a celebrity when they've got their bodyguards and pushing everybody out. Like they stomped around all the halls, making a raucous disruption. And it was really good. And yeah, the sword fights outside, they looked pretty serious when we were walked out. But yeah, plenty of drink, plenty of food, somewhere to sit. If take a folding stool or something. But yeah, 2 days is fantastic. I'm already planning with some friends that I'll probably go up on for the Friday next year with my friends to do a social day, and then if Duncan's there again, I'll do the Saturday and Sunday with Duncan again. So absolutely fantastic day. I've only been drinking milk since I come back just to keep my throat soft. And at one stage, I was actually I sat down and I was dead on my feet, and Mike had to revive me with coffee and sugar before I drove him home.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great couple of days in the demo and that stuff. I think that now that Duncan's got the 4 boards put together, we could play those those bigger games. Was really good. The bits that the kind of highlights of it for me is when you get those young people, those some kids coming and looking at it and, oh, can I have a go? Do you know what I mean? And so forth. I think that's could be such a significant moment in that child's life. That could be the moment that they become a geek like us. And what better preparation for adult life could there be than getting into war games and role playing, right?
I should mention.
Sorry, Wally.
I should mention. I believe that over the 3 days, Bear's Army and Duncan's Band of Brothers raised over 1,500 in direct donations at the show.
And that's what I was going to come to, because although we were doing the Duncan's Band of Brothers bit, which was towards the front, Warlord was behind us, and in between that was Bear's Army, which we talked about Bear before. Bear's Army, what they're doing is they're taking models into kids on dialysis for them to paint, because they're in there for hours, normally just looking at tablets. And it all started just with him doing it for his own kid, and other kids asking if they could get involved. And there's now quite a crew of them through one of the Geek Retreat stores that build the models so they can be taken into the kids. And they had painting stations, and on the Saturday there were loads of young people. I don't know, maybe it's because I work in a school or whatever, but it is the young people's involvement that I like to see the most. My highlight of the weekend was kids doing what kids want to do. So it was a bit quieter later on the Saturday as I was walking around. There was a couple of very young girls, like 8 or 9 years old, and they were at one of the stands that did loads of tufts, and they were just making pretty patterns with grass tufts on bits of paper. To them, it was just another craft activity, like they could have been beads or something. It was like, oh, these are just different colored things we can stick on here. And I was like, this is just kids doing what kids want to do. You know what I mean? Look around and say, I want to do that. And the people at the stall are like, okay, go for it. Thought it was lovely.
That was
lovely.
grass. It was
there was a couple with a son that I did some demoing with on the Saturday. And the dad was then playing the son, the Germans versus the British Paras. And I said to the young lad, I said, are you going to be asking Santa for this for Christmas? And the dad looked at the mum, and they both grinned. And then 20 minutes later, when the next group were on, they came back with the Band of Brothers starter box that the mum had bought them to take home.
All right, so that was what was going on over at Duncan's Band of Brothers. I mean, you worked far harder than I did over those 2 days, Mike. I can't believe that you managed to do it, to be honest, but you did. Apart from Dwayne, did you see much else of the show? Were there any other bits that stood out to you? What did you buy? What toys did you pick up?
It was all Warlord. I've got the new Rangers, and I won in the raffle again, which is quite. So I've got a German Opel Blitz, and I got the bits for Actum Panzer, because we'll be doing a second part of our campaign. The first part will be out soon, and then we're going to be doing an Actum Panzer campaign on the channel.
All right, thank you very much, Wally. So Nick, then were you there as a punter rather than as an exhibitor? I think
a very guilty punter, because everywhere I went were people I knew working really hard, and I was just like, "See ya, I'm going over there," and that was my entire time. My entire 3 days was just wandering around, talking to people, meeting some lovely new friends, like Mira said there. It was hard not to be excited by the things you were being shown, and then find out where, the story of this product, these miniatures of this game, where it started. And the next thing you know, you're having a 20-minute conversation with someone, but it was great. Gamers Grass was the company doing those tough displays. They did it at Salute as well. I think that's only the second time I've ever seen them at a show. And they just have all of their tufts out, a whole bunch of bases, and you can just sit down there all day and just like shove tufts on the bases. It's lovely. This is going to sound like I'm starting a business meeting here because I want to talk numbers. Just saw them today. But this is a record year for Expo. They're up 23% on unique ticket sales. They accounted for, if you compare them to Gen Con last year, they hit 93% of Gen Con's capacity, which is monster for UK Games Expo. Really, really cool. So anyway, I'll get on to the fun stuff now. I do have some photos, but I don't know if you want to make me big screen. I might be able to show them on my phone, if that will work. Or I can do it like this. This is the reason I can't hobby tonight, is because this is what I'm working on, and they're just way too micro. But this is some of the beautiful Catalyst art that was beside their stand. We have one of the painters. Dwayne, was this the chap who did the...
This is
work?
Arthur, yeah. Arthur did the big dioramas and the big mix and paints as well, like, yeah.
Yeah, really a phenomenal guy. 1 second. Let me get some more stuff up here. So a few of the games that really stood out for me. This is a game called Go Ahead Punk. This is by... Let me see if I can find their names. I can't find their name here, but what it was a 70s style cop thing where you had an active shooter going from top of building to top of building, and the cops were trying to track him down, radioing across the city to each other. And it was just incredibly thematic. It's a 1970s San Francisco it's set in. It's just complete. I think they're just shipping their Kickstarters now, but a really cool game to see there. There's
Looked like it could also have been called Mullets and Afros.
Very much so. Yeah. This is from a little Scottish company called, they made a game called Wreck and Ruin, sorry. It was released last year. They're under Dream Big Games, and they've started to do some miniature making as well. Probably the best value place in the entire arena. Now, one of the coolest things about UK Games Expo is the bring and buy. I brought a full 20-kilo suitcase full of stuff that I wanted to sell. You check it in. You can check it in from the Thursday night, and you can set your own price and track it in the app. It's incredible. 10% of that goes to the charity that the UK Games Expo puts up, and then you can go into the bring and buy yourself and shop. It's cash only. You can't carry any bags in. So anybody coming next year, just remember that. Leave your bags in the little cloakrooms that they have. But it was in there that I got my Unicorn game, a game I've been searching for since I was a little kid, the first edition of Blood Bowl. And it was in absolute mint condition. And I'm just so thrilled. This made my entire weekend, being able to find this. And it was 20 quid. So it was just madness. But there's an example of sort of meeting new friends. This is Mike Hutchinson. Mike wrote Gaslands on Refueled. He recently released Hobgoblin, and Hobgoblin won the Judge's Choice and the People's Choice for Best Miniature Rules at UK Games Expo. For people who don't know this, there are 2 sets of competitions every year, lots of categories. The judges decide before the event starts, and then as the event runs, the people have a chance to vote as well. So you have the opportunity to win 2 awards in your particular category. Something else I discovered was a company called Hexton Hills. Hexton Hills make these incredible modular terrain hexes in resin or FDM. and they build these hyper detailed worlds in miniature. Absolutely beautiful. They've got the tiniest sheep you've ever seen on them as well. And it's just great for world building. They actually have it with magnets on it onto a steel sheet, and that goes up on their wall. So when they're running their D&D sessions, they can actually just point to where you are, that you're coming up to that river. And then for the gamers, they can go up and stand beside it and get this incredible experience. And you can see another one of their unpainted little hexes there too. Beautifully detailed. They just sell the STLs and then you can print them. There is myself standing in front of that, I think, 36-meter banner at Catalyst. And that's that's Saturday when it was just sort of quieting down there behind me. The Catalyst definitely came and made an impression. They certainly had a lot of intent there. And in a year where we got no show from Warhammer dropped out as a sponsor, Catalyst seemed to have filled in that space with that sort of dominant presence in Hall 1. Another game I just wanted to talk about, which just blew me away when I saw it. It's this one here. It's called Scythopian Wars. Scythopianwars.com is their website. It's two brothers, one who does the art, one who creates he does the art and creates the miniatures, one does the deep lore and the rules. And if you just see some of these miniatures, they're just phenomenal. If my phone will behave. Absolutely breathtaking designs. Some of the most creepy, weird things I've ever seen. But, there's a lot of quirkiness in there as well. So it's such a cool place to see these independent makers, people who are still doing their day jobs, but they're coming out. They've built this thing. They might have hand cut the cards. So when you go to see it, it might be in that early state of production. And I just think that's phenomenal to experience that. I did have a little bit of my haul because I spent 3 days pretty much shopping and being funded by the stuff that was selling in bringing by. That's how I justify it. I'm like, can I afford this? And I'd bring up the app and I'd be like, I can now. And then I'd buy it. But these are some of the miniatures that I picked up. Lots of dragons from Archon. Some labyrinth goblins at the back there. And then some other little bits and pieces. There's always an event miniature. So I don't know if you can see the little dragon with the meeple at the front. That was this year's.
There was an event miniature. I didn't get a doggy bag. Oh.
Boo. I think it's a one-page rules. Did it at Salute as well. So if you look for the one-page rules logo, you'll see that
Salute this year. It was a lady pirate.
Oh yeah. So the one-page rules did a free miniature at the event that you had to go and just sign up for the newsletter. Annie's one came in the goodie bag at the beginning, didn't it? There's some of the paints that I picked up as well. I think that's another element of this. It's not just board games, it's not just war games. There's a lot of hobby going on. Duncan and the Tooth and Coats Painting Academy was there. They have moved. They had a store, I think, in Hall 1, and they also had like a little sit and paint area in Hall 3. So Hall 3 it used to just be bring and buy and open play. And now it's starting to get a few larger scale games. It's got the sit and paint there. You sort of get the feeling. Play. And competitive play as well, yeah. And you see the big clocks up on the wall, sort of. It's all very serious. And this has now become a trend, is like sticker swaps. So if you are going into an event and you have a YouTube channel or an Instagram or something, do some stickers, have them in your pocket, and then you can always swap them with folks, and normal business cards there as well, of course. But yeah, and there's some of the other stuff and miscellaneous bits that I picked up as well. But I mean, that's just toys and some stuff, but the overall experience is just everywhere you go, you find something new. And even if you've been like I did 60,000 steps across 3.5 days. And even at the end of Sunday, I was still discovering new bits and pieces. I was still turning around a corner and being like, oh, I remember reading about this. I found the Vikings one evening when I was coming back from the pub. I was with the On Tabletop guys, and they were all sitting around their fire at dusk, and they were telling stories, and I got such FOMO. I just wanted to wander over and be like, I have a beard. May I sit with you? But I couldn't see any civvies there. Everyone was in homemade stuff. Because these are like living history Vikings. They're serious. If you go over there and say the word like reenactment or cosplay, you die. That's what happens. But they're so much fun as well. Like when I was having lunch on Saturday and I was watching little kids destroy the Viking shield wall. And I think they did say dead or rise at the end of it. I do remember them saying that a few times. But I think that it's that feeling of you will never have enough time. So do a bit of planning and don't be worried about, missing things. You're never going to see it all because you could have wandered all 3 halls of the main arena. You could have gone to the Vikings. You could have gone across to, different things that are happening out and about. And you would still miss the Hilton Hotel, which is full of games from dawn to dusk every single night, because that's an extension of the main event. They take over the Hilton. It's just across the street. And you could go the entire weekend and not even cross its front door and miss all of that. So, yeah, I think those are sort of my main feels for it. A lot of indie makers there. I'm seeing a lot of 3D people coming in, making little colorful bits and pieces. So that's a little bit new. And definitely for me, the big shock of the first day of the Friday was just how crazy it was. It felt like Saturday last year. And then Saturday, the actual Saturday this year, it ramped it up again. So for me, I think they need to extend to another hall because they're already starting to encroach into hall 3. I think we're kind of at that point.
Yeah. All right. So kind of reflections, and I mean a big one for me that I do not understand unless it is purely about control of money and the rents around the various booths. Is there is only one main corridor at the top. There is no access between the halls at the other end, which means everybody has to go through the same space. You don't move round, you move back. So get in between, because where Mirror was and the game therapy stall was almost a mirror image from where we were in the next hall. And it took me, I think the first time I went over to say hi, about 20 minutes to just walk there. To just get through the people.
Yeah, there was a chap came over from County Clare to meet me on Saturday morning and just spend the day with me, and he was flying home Saturday night. And he said he was just like, the wall of noise that hit him, even in hall 3. He was just like, is it like this everywhere? And I was like, oh, this is nothing. Wait till you get in 2 and 1. You're going to need to put your earplugs in. But I said, flow like the river. Don't crash like the waves. Let the crowd take you. And if you see an opportunity to get off left or right, take it, flow that way. If you try to bluster through, or if you have your backpack on, and you're trying to turn around in these crowds, you're just going to annoy people. You're just going to make people's day bad. But yeah, cutting out is sometimes the only way. Like cutting out through the main doors of 1 or 2, walking up the outside stairs. It could save you. It's crazy, but it could save you half an hour of bustling through crowds.
And then, so for people who were considering going, because I mean, Nick, the experience you described, I mean, you obviously like milked it for every ounce of gold that there was. You were panning that river to find the last few flecks of it, and I think I would suggest to people who are thinking about going to something like the Expo, there's two very different types of visits. I think if you want to see what's new from the big companies and do a little bit of shopping, you definitely would be okay doing with a day. You'll go away feeling there was a lot more I could have done. And if that's what you like to do at a show, I don't think that you will find the 3 days satisfactory. You know, if there's maybe like 5 or 6 big companies you're interested in, you can definitely do all that in a day. If you want to try demo games of something you've never heard of, and you know, buy things that you've never considered you might be interested in, then it's worth making a longer trip and staying for the 3. I don't know what do other people. What would you say to that, Dwayne?
I'd agree with you, because if people were mainly going for shopping, like just going to Friday, like as soon as the doors opened, there was people running to the Catalyst booth, and we had a massive queue, like literally running to get there as quick as possible
To get the new thing.
There's new box sets. The new box sets are here, and you know it's hard for us to get a hold of them in our local store or whatever. So like I can see if people are just going for retail therapy, yeah, maybe a one day or off the Friday. But there's so much, and there's so many people, so many faces, and so many people you haven't even met before. Like I forget his name now. This is how terrible I am. But the rep from AK Paints, going up and talking to him and bumping into different people like Duncan, and there's loads of people there. I met loads of people from Ireland that I know already as well. Like I even said at one stage, it feels like we're at a convention back home. Like there's that many of us here, so it's good. Like there's loads of people to meet, and I got to meet you lovely gents as well in the flesh, which is great crack. So it's good for networking.
For me, that's the reason for wanting to go to you know, if you're at all involved in that kind of, you know, intro level influencer type world that we are as small YouTubers, a lot of the people that like what the chance that I'm going to come over to Ireland and sleep on your couch is quite low.
But I mean, you can if you want me. Hey, I'm not stopping you. Right.
That's very kind of you. But you know what I mean. But an event like this, the chance to like, you know, I've talked to this guy, I don't know, 20 hours on camera. Spent a lot, you know, feel like I know him quite well, but I never met him. I didn't know you were bloody huge for one, for example. You know, and there's something about meeting people for real, isn't there?
Yeah,
you know, and being able to get things going. What about you, because you're a big networker, Mary. You get everybody on your show, like Ian Livingstone in your living room and everything.
I really love. I don't know why. I always felt like a bit of a lonely soul, and you know, I talk about my dad a lot. My dad got me into all the geek culture, and I lost my dad, and I just feel safe and at home with people who like the hobby. And I love people, and I'm really curious. And the thing that really fires me up and makes me happy, gives me a happy bubble, is seeing those people who make stuff, you know, hearing about Nick's dioramas. I'm like, I'm in, mate. I haven't got a clue what tanks Mike's talking about. I'll have to ask Ian. And you know, Dwayne, Dwayne was my anchor, even though he didn't realize it at the event. And you know, obviously Kaiser's, you've invited me on, which makes me feel, you know, I can be legitimate. So it really is about, you know, there are so many people that are also at a convention feeling nervous and shy, and you can make loads of friends. Should also say we forgot to talk about the evening entertainments as well, because they had shows. They had the Dark Room, they had Werewolf Live, they had Nightmare Live. I went to see Nightmare Live because my friend Paul is Treguard, and I have a big crush on Lord Fear, and it was brilliant. It's like theatre shows in the evening. There's just so much to do. And talking of the Vikings, this is how friendly everyone is, because Nick, I wanted to be part of the Vikings too, and obviously we cannot, because we do not have a dressing gown or leather straps for our socks. But I went over, and did you know the Vikings had horns? And I just saw these Vikings, and they were putting their horns away, and I said, no, please play them again for me. Okay, whenever you're ready, here you go. Please. Like, where else are you just going to go and say to some people, can you blow your horns for me? And they're like, gladly.
I heard one of those at I think it was a Norwegian death metal show, that somebody in the crowd raised one up and played it. It was the most terrifying sound I've ever heard in that arena.
Well, the Vikings have got their reputation for a reason, probably those horns. But I just think it's a really nurturing, lovely place to be, and networking. As you say, Michael, my favorite thing about my YouTube is talking to all the people and stealing all basically they're the interesting people and they sparkle on my channel. And I loved what you said about, panning in the river for the gold. If you go with like a good attitude and expect to see, there are so many things that will surprise you. I was surprised Games Workshop wasn't there, for instance, but that was fine. But then Fallout was there. And of course, Fallout is experiencing this revival. So I think the best thing to go is go with a good attitude and hope to see lovely things. And yeah, if you go and you're like, oh my God, this crowd, I can imagine like if you're easily socially overwhelmed, it could be hell. But I think it sounds like we were all really lucky. We all found lovely stuff to do.
So to the kind of socially overwhelming thing, the Sunday afternoon is very, very different. I know you'd gone by then. You needed to go home and stream because you're crazy.
Yeah, I had a commitment, but I did think, you're a teacher as well. I did feel for some of the little ones. I saw one little one just walking around like this, and there were some people that were being supported to be there by their friends, but were obviously in discomfort. And I don't really know what you can do about that. I saw some people had those little rings, the sensory
loops.
Yeah.
But I really felt like, I was thinking of a couple of my friends that they would have come but they would not have been able to spend a lot of time there. So I agree, they should open another hall.
Well, but I also, for anyone, I would say that going on the Sunday afternoon, it's very different. There was 1/10 the number of people there by 12 o'clock. I went for a cigarette break from our board at 12 o'clock, and I came back about 20 past, and no one had been up to roll a dice in the intervening time. Whereas it had been absolutely chock. We were making appointments on the Saturdays.
Yeah,
people were being booked in.
So I was thinking about you.
See the end of the hall and what was, that's when we suddenly realized there was a stall next to us that was quite interesting in the scenery. And Mike went over and talked to him.
But Mike, I was thinking about you.
Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I was thinking about you because all the smokers, they had to go for like a 30-minute walk to have a fag and then a 30-minute walk back.
So you don't have one, you have 3 or 4.
Okay, you're like that. But like take some patches, take some gum.
I think the best thing I did this year was go on Thursday afternoon. Fly over on Thursday afternoon. I know it's not always ideal for people who have to fly. You get the extra hotel night or whatever. But I was able to book in my bring and buy. I was able to get my ticket with very little queuing. And then Friday morning, I was just straight in. And it looked like it was bedlam with the hours and hours of waiting for tickets in Hall 3. So that was the very best money I ever spent was on the extra hotel night. Because it was so chill on Thursday night as well. We were all just sitting in the hall playing card games and dice games on the floor while we're waiting for the areas to open. And it was just a lovely experience. And then I wandered into the press event and no one stopped me. So I was just like, well, wander around here. But the very best money I spent, and by being able to go in first thing on Friday, those first 2 hours were just golden for shopping and for getting around everything. It really didn't kick off until maybe 11 or noon.
People couldn't get in yet. They had to get the ticket.
Yeah, they were all just in Hall 3. But I did notice that at Dwayne's stall, it was the only real queue across all 2 halls. First thing on the Friday morning. So Battletech have that little honor that they were the most queued at stall first thing.
They literally ran. Some of them literally ran straight to it, like as soon as the door opened.
All right, Wally. What about you? Sort of reflections you done like me. You did the 2 days. You put more time in the stall than I did.
Yeah. It's just great because most of my games are against Kaiser for the channel, and I play a few other games. But just teaching somebody and then them doing an unexpected tactic, or and then enjoying it when they blow up a tank or something like that. Their excitement on that. But on the hotel side, I'm looking for next year. The Moxie's fully booked. The Hilton's got limited places. We stayed in a hotel about 25 minutes away, and other than getting in the car park in the morning, even though we were arriving early, we're still in the queue, and then sort of like pushing our way through the hordes, waiting to get in, to get to the school stall, even though we got exhibitor passes. But it's, like I say, with my friend, one of my friends went on the Friday, and I didn't know he was going, so we're doing a meetup next year. So it's going to be a full 3-day event, one for me, and 2 for Duncan if he's there.
Right. Okay. Well, I guess that just wraps it up. I mean, it was hard work, but it was a great experience. I met loads of people that it was good to meet up with. I got a lovely bottle of whiskey from Dwayne. I was tempted to drink it. So he done that thing where he didn't tell me, and then when I saw him, he's like, "Oh, I've got you a gift." I'm like, "I haven't got you one."
Next time.
Next time. I did touch your bomb a little bit though, didn't I? I tried to make up for
I think it was more a gift for you than me, but okay,
right,
the 2 gifts though.
So anyway, yeah, but it was great, but it was tough. So let's just go quick round. Remind people where they can find you guys on your socials, on your YouTube channels. Dwayne.
You can find me on Plastic Crack Gaming. There's the YouTube channel. There's the Facebook page. I help run the 40k Orc community, so I'm there for 40k Orcs on the Discord. The odd time, you'll mostly find me on Facebook pages in Battletech Ireland, which we set up to run Battletech, and we've a Discord as well, so you can find me there.
If you want Battletech content, Dwayne's your man. Nick.
You can find me on Grey Primer. That's Grey with an A, and that's on YouTube. I'm Nick from Grey Primer on Instagram. I don't post all that much on YouTube because my stuff takes 3 to 4 months to complete. I need to get better at doing videos in between. But if you go to the channel, you'll see there's a lot of history there, and a lot of the big movie and book related dioramas that I've done are already to view. And yeah, that's pretty much me living in those 2 places.
Magic. We're gonna get you on for like a proper showcase of some of the stuff you've done. I think
beautiful. I'd love that.
I just thought it'd be a good place to introduce you tonight. And Mira, where can people find you?
They'll find me stalking Nick to look at his dioramas. So yeah, we'll be fighting over Nick, which is lovely. That's what we talk about. Our pool. We're all swimming in the same pool. If you just Mirror Manga Google me, I'm on YouTube and X, as it's now called, and Instagram. And yeah, just doing the things. Come say hi.
And did you pick up any cracking interviews did you line anybody up at the show?
I did.
Or you're not allowed to say.
I think I can say I am going to Fighting Fantasy Fest in September, and I've got a special interview with Sir Ian. So yeah, but there are a lot of creators, and I think some Nick, were you suggesting I picked up a lot of cards? There was this guy who done an amazing Horus mini. So yeah, I will hope. The thing is, I get very nervous. I like to be introduced to people because I get nervous about approaching strangers, but we'll see.
All right, guys. That was our reflections on the UK Games Expo. I hope it was good. Sorry, there wasn't many comments in the chat. I didn't see any like straight out and out questions for the guys. I'm just having a quick scan before we go. I think that just about wraps it up for tonight. Thanks everyone for coming on. I don't know about you, but I'm still pretty tired after the weekend. So, all the viewers out there, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.